Hey out there in mommy land, this is Mom Unfiltered. I am your host, Jacqueline. Today, we get to speak with an amazing mother of three. She has two dynamic girls and one awesome son, Miss Tinnycua Williams, the debt-free maven. She is here today with us to share her mom's story of perseverance and discovery. Please don't forget to like, share, and leave a review on your podcasting platform. Now it's time for our program. Hey out there, Mom Unfiltered. Hi, sisters. I would love to introduce you to Miss Tinnycua Williams. She is a mom. She is the debt-free maven. Woohoo! She is here with us today. Hi, Tinnycua. How are you?
I'm fair going. I am fine. I am so happy to be here.
Oh, good. So great to see you. So let's get started. How long have you been a mother?
I actually calculated this. So I have been a mom 25 years and 8 months.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you just put the 8 months on there, huh?
Because come July, it'll be 26 years.
Oh,
so I didn't want to shave off any extra.
Okay, and 28 months. How many children in them 25 years and 8 months do you have?
So I have 3 children, ages 25, 17, and 15, going on 22.
And what is their makeup? Boy, girl, girl, boy, 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 girl, girl.
So I have, my youngest is a girl, my middle child is a boy, and then my oldest is a girl. So I got the whole gamut.
Oh my goodness, you got the boy in the middle. My mom did that. Is he like disappeared?
No,
he's inserted himself.
He is the extrovert.
Okay, good.
So the party doesn't start until he shows up.
I heard that. I heard all of that. And how is their dynamic together? How do you see them?
So interestingly enough, and I think God was all up in this. So my oldest, after she graduated from college, she ended up moving into her grandmother's apartment.
Okay.
And that was a blow for us, but she needed it because we live in a 3-bedroom apartment. So that meant that my 2 younger were at that point where it was starting to get, the love wasn't there like it used to be. And they're 18 months apart. So they're kind of like Irish twins, right? Yeah. And I think that was probably the best decision because my younger 2, because they're so close in age, they run the gamut from all love. And then sometimes it gets real intense and neither one of them back down.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And she's the youngest one, she's strong. All my children are highly intelligent. They're critical thinkers, which sometimes can be good and not so good. But the youngest one doesn't have a problem standing her ground. And sometimes I'm worried about if my son is, is he somehow letting her, but no, they both, it's almost like 2 lions going at it.
Wow.
And so sometimes I have to step in, and we actually have a family slogan that I came up with. Family first, respect always.
Okay.
Because at certain points, I have to bring that up to remind them that, no matter what happens, family is always going to be there. So you have to appreciate it. Otherwise, because hopefully, God willing, I'll be here forever, but we know that that's not usually how the story goes. So at the end, I want them to be able to have one another, so that's where that comes from. But it is interesting times in my house.
Yeah. Oh, not only your house, in all of our houses, girl. It is an interesting climate for mothers, period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So as they are home, what are they teenagers? You said they're teenagers. Are they both like Senior, junior, high school, junior, sophomore?
So my son is a high school senior
Okay.
and he's about to go off to college, terrified because he doesn't know what that really means. Like he saw his sister go off to college, but I don't think it's really setting in. So he's going through that interesting period. And my younger daughter is a high school sophomore.
Okay.
So she's in the midst of taking like the advanced placement classes. And so, I mean, with remote schooling, it is crazy because it's like she has a college course load.
Right.
So she has some classes where assignments are due by midnight the same day. So there's times, I mean, one time I came out here and I sat down my laptop. I said, okay, I'll keep you company. And I couldn't even keep up with her because I get up very early in the morning.
Right.
But she's diligent. She has her little drink in the morning. She has everything set up. She gets in front of her computer and she's about it.
Right.
My son, on the other hand, it's more like, okay, I know my class is at 8:00 and it's 7:45 and I'm still in bed.
Oh so, yeah, 13-year-olds like that. She's like 8:30. I go in there at 8:15 and she's like, Mom, it's 15 minutes. I will go in there at 8:25. Classes in 5 minutes. I'm like, you haven't even got up and brushed your teeth. You didn't go pee. I mean, like, really? And then like 8:32, she's logging on.
Like, I mean, I've gotten to the point that I'm just like, you know what? I'm holding you accountable. This is what accountability looks like. So if you don't get on in time, guess what? You're going to be the one that's going to suffer. And I was the first one to advocate for my kids. But if you're wrong, you're wrong. So don't have me looking crazy
out in these streets.
You know what I mean? Because I will be that parent. I will be that parent that the teachers are just like, but yet no. But I know, and I got my notes and the whole thing. But if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, then
then I can't fight for you. I can't advocate for you if you're not doing what you're supposed to do.
No.
Yeah, no. That's where we at.
And those consequences are yours to have.
Absolutely. Have them. Have them. Yeah, those grades have definitely slipped during the pandemic. I went from having a straight A child to now she's got a 1.6 and she's like, whatever. I can't wait to go back to school. I'm like, I can't wait for you to go back to school either because I want to see her thriving. She was so much better as a person when she was getting good grades. She liked getting good grades, And now she's like, I'm over it. I'm over the online school.
Well, see, it's hard too, because especially if you get your energy off of interacting with other people. I know for my son, this was a difficult period of time for him, especially when it first hit. Because he went from being with his friends and all of that sort of stuff to all of a sudden he's coming, he's coming in and saying, oh my gosh, wait a minute. Because at first it was like, oh, we're going to be home. This is going to be great. And then when it really started to sit in, like, I'm not going back to school. I have to do everything from this laptop.
Right.
They had Zoom fatigue before Zoom fatigue was a thing.
Right.
So I totally get it. And I mean, that's why at a certain point I had to, particularly with him, sometimes just let him go out, get on his skateboard and just, roam around the block so that he could just get that engagement because he wasn't getting it.
Right. He just be around people.
Yeah. Exactly.
So were you raised with a specific spiritual belief and how does that play a part in you raising your children today?
Well, see, let me tell you, because I got a story for everything, right?
I love it.
So interestingly enough, my mom, especially when I was younger, was not, shall we say, a church-going woman. So Sunday was just like a regular day. And it so happened that across the street from my elementary school, there was a church. It was a Catholic church. So she got me and my sister, I only have one sister, we're 6 years apart, baptized at that church. And then that was pretty much it. There was like nothing else. And it's 1985, right? And I'm watching this TV show. And in a TV show, it's this woman who was in jail for killing her husband.
Mm.
And she convinces the mortician at the jail to help her escape. So
Wow.
she done hatched out the whole plan and everything. And Charles, let me tell you, the whole thing was okay, whenever the clock rings, whatever time, she's going to get in the coffin. They're going to bury her, and then he's going to come get her out. You know what happened, right? You already know what happened. So, homegirl is in the coffin, and she's like, well, where's such and such? You know, I don't even know what's wrong with him, stupid. He needs to come get me, blah, blah. So she lights the match in the coffin to see who she's in there with. It was the mortician that was supposed to get her out. So that night, when I went to bed, that was on my mind because I was just like, oh my God, she literally was buried alive. She literally is gonna die this way. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my God, and where's she gonna go? And so at that moment, I was like, yo, God, for real, I'm gonna be on your team.
Right.
I don't want no problems. And I started going to church on my own. Mm-hmm. So I was going to confession because, you know, Catholics love confession all the time. So I was going to confession, doing the whole thing. And that followed me. I became like a liturgist. I was a Sunday school teacher in high school, the whole 9 yards. And then I went off to college and, you know, we do what we do. And when I got back, so I got pregnant not too long after I graduated from college.
Okay.
And my boyfriend at the time, he and I were going back and forth and ultimately decided we were going to get married since he was my first and all of this. So I knew I needed to give her something. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I knew was to go back to the church.
Right.
So anywhere we were always going to church, right? Whether it was with my mother-in-law, who will just say I was not necessarily the right ethnicity for her, but she tolerated it. She tolerated me, so it was fine. Mm-hmm. So whether it was her church and the whole service was in Spanish, it was cool. I was there, or wherever. So I raised my children up in the church, mm-hmm. And that was great until it wasn't, because what I learned in that experience was that the reason why I was so staunch on going to church was because I had a fundamental relationship with God. Mm-hmm. I had an emotional connection that started from the time that I said, I'm going to be on your team. Mm-hmm. But I didn't help to cultivate that within my kids. I relied on the church to do that.
Oh, wow.
And that didn't work out so well. Mm-hmm. So it got to the point that my oldest, she was in the confirmation class and the whole class went rogue. I've never seen this ever. And the class was taught by the pastor, mind you.
Wow.
But she said he couldn't answer all of her questions.
Oh, wow.
And she said she was not going to just join a church if she didn't understand everything that was going on. So somehow or another, she was like, then I don't want to do it. The whole class went rogue. And I'm sitting there across from the pastor like, what kind of nonsense is this?
Wow.
You know, because of course, from an ego perspective, I'm in the liturgical dance group. You know, I'm involved teaching Sunday school. Like, what do you mean my child is not getting her confirmation, right? But I had to, say, well, if she's not getting her questions answered, trying to make her is not going to work. So I had to end up supporting her. And I started to see a trend. Every single one of my kids, it was this questioning. And I realized it was because I didn't fundamentally do my job in terms of incorporating that into the household. Everything was external. So now what I find is I don't pressure anyone. And when I talk to my kids, I just tell them my testimonies. Mm-hmm. And I tell them what's going on. And I tell them that God is real. And I have my examples to back it up. Because a lot of people can quote rhyme and verse.
Yeah.
But one, a lot of times they don't live it, and two, you don't believe it. Not you, but I'm saying people don't believe it. And the
Right.
reason why I know that is because when stuff happens, when it really happens, and you really need to depend on God, people is like, because they haven't fully, So I tell all of my kids, create that relationship for yourself. You're not sure about something, don't just rely on me to tell you to go look at this. Read it for yourself. It's in there for a reason.
Yes. It's in there.
You know what I mean? Because you can either get your word filtered, right? But this is the Mom Unfiltered podcast.
Unfiltered part. Yes.
That's right. So you read it for yourself. Now I can tell you, because like I said, I could tell a story. I could break down what happened to Jonah, and I could break down what happened to Ruth seamless.
Right.
Like I was there. But if people don't get that for themselves, I'm not doing them any favors, because what I want is when my kids are in certain situations, I want them to hear my voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's still enough to hear my voice, then hopefully then God will be able to get through.
Right.
So that's kind of how I approach that. It's really about having that connection so that God can get to you, because so many times that's what literally saved my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
I totally understand that, especially with the children. I haven't been very well at raising mine in the word, but during the pandemic, I decided to start teaching them the Bible. And the oldest one, she's kind of like, nah. The two younger ones, they want to hear. And so my 5-year-old goes, Mommy, how do I find God? How do I find him? And I'm like, well, honey, let's open up. He's right here.
Right.
it,
That
was
is
such
right.
it was such a joyful occasion for me to just start to read Genesis to him, in the beginning. Here
Yes.
he is. He's right here in the beginning.
That's
And
right.
Jesus is here and the Holy Spirit is here. They're all here. And
Mhm.
so that is what helped me. And periodically I'll get a hair and then we'll read a whole chapter. Like we read the whole chapter of Ruth, and we went through um, Esther, and so I'll go through the stories of it, and so we'll learn about the stories, and I'm gonna ask them, what did you get from it? What did you understand? How has having children changed your life?
Oh my God, child. Let me tell you something. First of all, children allowed me to have my voice,
Mm.
because I was one of those. I don't think that I was meant to be an introvert,
Mm-hmm.
but I came up as an introvert. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so I avoided conflict. I did not speak my mind. And when children came into the picture, all of a sudden that all changed. And it got to the point that if there was anything that I it thought in any way threatened any of my children, it was on. I mean, that is the only way that I can describe it. So I found my voice in some really unique ways. And also, interestingly enough, I actually found self-love, because I had this conversation. So my narrative was that I was okay and that I wasn't attractive. Not like like when you think of attractive, what when I came up, what was it, like Haley Berry, right? Like,
Oh
oh,
yeah,
like
nobody
I
looks
was
like Haley Bear.
right,
Nobody
like
looks
I
like her.
wasn't attractive like her. You know what I mean? I was okay. I was all right. You know what I mean? And I remember as my oldest started going through her transition into womanhood, and if you see her picture, she and I look very much alike, right? Like when she was in high school, I could show up at the school and people thought that I was her. That's how much alike we look. And she has locks too, except her locks are blonde, right? So one day I was looking and I was admiring that my daughter's beautiful. And then all of a sudden it was like a math equation. Well, if Imani's beautiful, well, then I I guess I I must be beautiful too, right? I was like, oh,
Isn't it?
I should have this was this amazing epiphany for
Wow.
me. And when I celebrated my birthday last year, she and I sat down to talk, and she said, "Mommy, did you ever think when you were my age that you would be where you are now?" And it was one of those that I was like, you know what? I don't have to go back to where I was at 25 because I'm looking at you now. And I can be able to reflect on who I am and know that, you know what? It's going to be okay. Like all of that stuff that we stress about,
Mm-hmm.
that it's not life or death. I mean, there are some life or death things,
Right.
but to like give yourself some grace and to like the most powerful thing was last year she said to me that she was doing some personal work, personal development work, and she said, "Mommy, I was forgiving so many people, but I didn't realize I needed to forgive you."
Ooh.
And she was like, "I just want you to know I forgive you." And girl, when I tell you right here,
Mm.
it hit me right here.
Mm.
And I would say maybe about a month or two later, I'm going through my process and I'm thinking about my mother and my stepfather and my biological father. And I'm writing writing the letter. Well, you didn't do this and da 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 da. I get to my mother's letter. Now, mind you, my mother's been deceased since 2013.
Oh.
I get to her letter and I start off with, and what you did wasn't right and da 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 da. And then all of a sudden I was like, but I should hope that when I get to be your age, if I am blessed to make it to my 60s, that my children will forgive me for all that I have done
Right.
and for all the mistakes that I have made. So you know what? On GP, you're forgiven. I release you.
Right.
And that could have only come because my daughter first gave me grace. If I didn't have children, I would like the conversation sometimes I have. It's because of conversations that I'm having with my kids
Right.
that force me to be introspective in ways that would not have happened otherwise. Because
Mm.
there's a humility when you're a mom.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because you go out and do all kinds of stuff, and you could be like, oh well, it wasn't really like this, it was like this. But when you have kids, they will call you on your stuff.
Yes. Call you out. They're your mirrors.
Yes.
They're your mirrors. And
And
I'm
you
like, ooh, I didn't know I didn't like that about myself. I sure don't like it on you. I write in the book, there was a pastor, I was listening to his sermon, and he said, you want respect from your children, but you're always talking to them disrespectful. And I was listening to it with my 13-year-old in the car, and she gave me the side eye. And I rolled my head around, and I was like, I didn't need to say nothing. I was like, you right? And just bite your tongue. Like, I was like, okay, Jesus, I hear you.
mm-hmm.
I'm working on it.
Right. That's right.
Because she is a queen of, I'm going to tell you what's on my mind, and it's going to be unfiltered.
Wow.
And sometimes, no, let me say 99% of the time, the things that roll off her tongue are not respectful.
Mm.
And I allow her to talk that way, and I talk that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, listen, we're going to have to work on being respectful in our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
our, that means you and me.
That's right.
Yeah,
Right.
because it gets real. There are
Yeah.
mirrors.
They'll call you out because that's what children do.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what children do. And in the beginning, I used to get upset and oh, they're disrespectful. And then at a certain point, I had to really take a step back. And it's not always easy because some days, like I tell them, sometimes I got to get rebaptized. Real talk.
Right.
Real talk. So
Right.
it's like, you know what? I am from the Lower East Side, right? So it's like, it could happen. But when I'm in my proper mind, then I can remember that, you know what? This is an opportunity. This is a gift. So let me take that on, and I'll come back sometimes and I'll apologize. And also I'll tell them, look, there's a reason why I did it this way. Or maybe before I might have done it this way, but I know better now. So I'm trying now.
Right.
You know, but it's parenting is one of the most challenging jobs.
Right.
Whether you're single mom, married, whatever it is, it's not easy, period. And it don't come with a handbook. At least when
it does. It does. It comes with a handbook. We just don't read it. We don't read it. We don't.
I hear you. I hear you.
Get into it like you're supposed to. We don't get into it.
Oh no!
There's some specific instructions in there, and I've read them a few times, and I'm like, when did this show up in here? I thought there wasn't a handbook, and there is a handbook. There's not a handbook that man has written, but there's a handbook of the infallible word, and you just have to look in there. It's in there. It's all in there. It's crazy that it's all in there, and I've been finding out it's in there.
So you know this means I got to go back now, because now I'm looking now.
Go back to Proverbs.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense.
Proverbs. They go back to Proverbs. That's where I start Proverbs, and then it'll take you here, and it'll take you there, and it'll take you over there, and take you over there, and then you're like, oh, okay. And even Corinthians, those letters to the people of Corinth,
yes,
might as well be the letters to parents.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, we got a handbook, girl.
You said a whole word.
We don't all know that it's there, because some of us we have read the word, right? And we've read it plenty of times, but did we actually digest it? Did it actually jump out at us? Did we read it in a time where we needed to read it? You know, was there a process in how we got it in us to read it? And a lot of times I'm just reading it because I said I was going to read it, and I'm not getting anything. And I had to go back and go over it 3 and 4 times. I read the book of Ruth like 5 times already.
Wow.
Because there's so much more in it. And then every season and every time that I read it, there was something different that jumped out. Even Proverbs 31, as I was going through it to write it, I went through it a few times, because there were times where I'm like, Lord, like, what are you trying to say? Like, what are you trying to say with this? Because I know there's no wasted ink in the Bible, right?
Right, exactly.
No wasted ink. There's a reason why you wrote this. So what is the reason? And if you didn't want to give it to me right then and there, I just thought about it all day. What could this be? I put it down. I left it alone. Came back to it a month later. Then you get revelation, but you have to look for it. You have to look for it.
I think that's the key, because so often I know that when there's been times where I've looked in the Bible for things that I thought I was supposed to be looking for. So as a result, I missed the signposts. You know, so yeah, that resonates with me for sure.
Yeah, and it happens. What, if anything, would you do different as a mom?
Ooh.
No regrets, just what would you do different?
I think that the biggest thing that I would do differently as a mom is that the times when I was not in relationship, I wouldn't be looking for the relationship because of the impacts that it had on my children. Because I think I've been a single mom more than I've been a wife. if that makes sense. And I've been a mom for more than half my life.
Mm-hmm.
So what I realized was that, because just to give context, my first husband and we got married about not even a year after I graduated from college. So we got married on Valentine's Day. We had Imani that July.
Mm.
And um, the marriage imploded about a year later. Right. And then I went through this period of now I'm a single mom and searching for people, places, and things to fill the holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then God blessed me with marriage a second time. And I was so happy to be in a relationship and to have a stepfather now that I missed some of the things that could have saved me had I paid more attention.
Mm-hmm.
But that misstep impacted my daughter significantly, that we still talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And when my second husband passed away suddenly 2 years into our marriage, now I'm a single mom with 3 kids.
Wow.
And after I went through my initial grieving period, I'm out again. Okay, now I got to get a husband, because I'm supposed, you know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
again, more missteps. And each time with those different missteps, my children are being impacted
Mm-hmm.
by those choices.
Right.
And there's damage, and they become like the collateral damage in the midst of all of that because I'm so busy trying to fill a hole.
Right.
And only within the last year or so, because the last relationship I was in, I've been in 3 relationships since my husband passed away, right? And 2 of them were for more than 3 years. The last one, I think he did me a favor by breaking up with me about a year and so into it. I had to finally come to terms with something that I had been running away from, and that was that I was the hero that I was searching for.
Yeah.
Now, I've preached on that very same theme before, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's so easy to preach on stuff and not live it.
Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean?
Right.
So I had to really come to terms with, if God allowed me to be a single mom, to be a widowed single mom, or whatever the terms you want to put in front of that, I'm a mom. He
Right.
blessed me to be that mom. Then that means that he gave me the tools to do what it is that I needed to do.
Right.
And that I didn't need to search for some man to come save me. Not that um not that marriage isn't a beautiful thing. Certainly I would love to be a wife again, but there are some things that I have to work on. And that last relationship was an eye opener
Mm-hmm.
because I had to really look and say, because I'm putting all of this energy over here, I'm neglecting my responsibilities over here.
Girl, that part.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I remember, you know, I we had that relationship was crazy. When I tell you I did all the things that they say you're not supposed to do. All the things. I checked off all the boxes. And we went all sorts of places. I'm talking Essence Music Festival and, going away on the weekend trips, the romantic weekend getaways, and trips with the kids because he had a son too, and
Wow.
all of these things. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna get out of this prison sentence, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden it implodes, and now I don't have a choice. I have to face me.
Right.
And that's when it really hit me that I am capable of doing this. that he didn't bring me this far to bring me this far. Like, I can do this. And that was probably the best period, because I was able to take that time and I just went within.
Yeah.
And I just really started dealing with stuff that I had been avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then when COVID hit, that gave me a unique opportunity to be with my kids, particularly the two younger ones, because my older one, she lives on her own. She has her career, the whole thing. But I was able to be here with my kids. I had the opportunity, because I work from home, had the opportunity to make breakfast in the morning and make sure they had breakfast. Because when I was out working, you're like, oh, God, okay, you know what I mean?
Eat a bagel.
Like, you know what I mean? So it was like all of a sudden now I can make breakfast. Now, when I go into the kitchen to get lunch and they're in between classes, we can talk. Mm-hmm. Now we can share, we can really bond. I'm not out there chasing anybody. I'm not going on any dates. I'm not doing whatever. So then we're finding things, within us. Mm-hmm. So like my younger one, she went through a period where she wanted to get into the Bible. And, she started with Genesis. I told her to start with Genesis.
Right.
And then we could actually talk about it. Like, because I was saying, Tinnycua, you've been a Sunday school teacher for how long? Come on now, stop it. Like, really? So you teaching everybody else's kids. What about yours?
Having your seeds fall to the wayside.
You know what I mean? Like crazy stuff. So, that was huge for me. So I think instead of constantly looking for someone to replace, I would have been more patient, because there were many opportunities that I missed because I was so busy searching for stuff. I couldn't even see the blessing that I had in front of me. I would have, and I don't even know how I would have, but I would have probably been more patient with myself and more patient with my kids. Mm-hmm. And I would have been more present, because at times I could be a real workaholic. Mm-hmm. But it's cost my children at different points.
Yeah. Yeah. So now you get to be single with yourself. You get to date yourself.
Yeah.
And then you found out you were qualified, because God does not call the qualified. He qualified you to be a mother. He qualified you. He already gave you the tools.
Yeah.
So you found all that out.
She said, hey,
now that we know, well, you know better, do better, right?
How about that?
How about that? You were able to turn it around.
Yeah.
So tell us at Mom Unfiltered about your business, your ministry, your work. Tell us about what you do.
So I do a couple of different things. So I have my 9-to-5 where I work for the City University of New York, and I support professionals in the field of early childhood. And oh my gosh, is it a she or he?
It's a she.
Oh, she's beautiful.
All making cameos all the
time. Can I tell you, I love dogs and I love cats. So I have a grand puppy.
Uh-huh.
And I have a kitten, Midnight, who she hasn't made a cameo, and that's so right. But yes,
I saw Midnight. I've seen Midnight.
Man. So so I support professionals in the workforce with their professional development. And then I also run a peer support group for women who are working on their finances and looking for support along the way. Okay. So it's called Mind and Money Matters, and we meet every other week. And as part of that, we're really focused on not only giving people that support, because finances can be challenging, and that really came out of after that breakup, me also realizing that I needed to do something different if I wanted different,
Mm-hmm.
and starting to really look at doing things differently with my finances.
Mm-hmm.
And so last year, I started paying off debt.
Okay.
And by the end of last year, I had cleared over $10,000 of debt. And
Wow.
this is coming from somebody that when I tell you I got paid on Thursday and I was broke by Sunday,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that was me.
Yeah. No, I was in that ministry too.
You said you had that ministry.
I was in that ministry too.
It was, I mean, I had no, I mean, no sort of concept. And I mean, I budgeted, or I thought I was budgeting.
Right.
I did all kinds of stuff, but something clicked
Mm-hmm.
when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I remember it became a thing. Okay, I'm going to clear this amount of money in this quarter.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, now I'm going into the second quarter. And now I'm going, it just kept going. So then next thing I know, people are like, oh, well, come do a presentation on your debt-free journey. I was like, oh,
What?
me and money?
Right.
You sure you don't want somebody else? Because because
Now,
I'm a
testimony.
hotmess.com.
You got it. You got the testimony. Now, people that see that you were a hot mess, that you were that person that got paid on Thursday and was broke on Sunday, they need to see that you can do it. Not only did I live it, I'm in your position, but I've gotten out of it, and I can show you how. Oh my goodness, honey, that's it right there.
And it's still ongoing. It's still ongoing because I have not fully cleared off all of my debt. But one thing that I can say is that that process taught me that it is possible.
It is.
And it doesn't have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not about, it's because you got people who, you hear these stories that they paid off $50,000 in debt in 6 months. Well, maybe that's because they were making that kind of money.
Right, right,
Right. But I had to do what I could as I went.
right.
But honestly, when I started the call, it was only, so we started last July, me and my partner Sam. So she and I co-host. And the reason why she and I co-host is because she was the one who said to me, you can do this and I'm going to help you. And that first day we were on the phone. Now, mind you, we've never met in person.
Mm-hmm.
Sam and I have never met in person.
Wow.
But that first day, she sat with me on the phone for a good 5 hours, Jacqueline.
Wow.
Working with me on that first initial budget and really holding me accountable.
And that's what you need. That's what us mamas need, is a friend who's going to have that covenant to say, I got you, sis. I'm going to hold you accountable. I want you to win.
Seriously, because so many other times before, I was always that friend.
Mm-hmm.
I was always, oh, Tinnycua, oh, poor Tinnycua, she's divorced. Oh, poor Tinnycua, she's a single mom. Oh, poor Tinnycua, she's a widow.
Mm.
Oh, poor Tinnycua, she just don't have it together. And no one ever said, well, I'll help, right? Maybe because they couldn't, and that's okay.
Right.
But people were telling me, what, you need to do a class, you need to do this, you need to do that. And at the time, I didn't feel comfortable doing that. But I said, you know what I can do? I can create my own AA, but for finance, because nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing that. And we started our Mind and Money Matters call, and people came. And then we came up with this concept, right? So I have this character, right? And her name is Sister Shannon.
Okay.
And so Sister Shannon is like that girlfriend that could never get it together. I'm talking when she comes on during the call, she got her church hat on, because girlfriend always goes to church and our call is on a Sunday.
Uh-huh.
And she got her black gloves on, but they got holes in it.
Mm.
Because her stuff is not right. And she got her pearls, but her pearls are fake.
Okay.
And she always has a scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And we go through that scenario, and the ladies talk about how we can help Sister Shannon solve her problem. Now, see, here's the thing. Now, Sister Shannon didn't want me to say this, but I'm gonna blow up her spot.
Okay.
So Sister Shannon lately has taken to going on the internet because, see, the problem is that sometimes instead of talking to God, right, or instead of talking to a trusted friend, we put our stuff on social media.
Ooh.
So
Oh.
Sister Shannon done taken to doing some YouTube videos.
Uh-huh.
So I've been introducing her. And I told her, I said, Sister Shannon, we don't need to do this. But she said, no, I need to let the world, I gotta get some help. So, we got a couple of YouTube videos, and she out there.
Yeah, there. Well, she got to get some help. We go help Sister Shannon.
For real.
I love it. I love it. Okay, here's a big one. What was your greatest come to Jesus moment as a mother?
Ooh. My greatest come to Jesus moment was when after um after my breakup, my son went to stay with a friend of the family. He was actually my late husband's best friend. And he stayed with him for a week because we were going through it. And I was about to send him back to God. And I was talking to this friend about it. He said, let him come stay with me. And in that week, all of a sudden, my son is making up his bed. All of a sudden, my son is respectful. He came home, got off that plane, and it was like my son was a different person. And I was like, who is this? Who that? Who that there? And in the process, unfortunately, a couple of months later, that same friend decided that my son wasn't meeting his expectation. And here was another situation where another man in his life was not showing up. And that's when I had to again realize that I'm looking for everybody else to do the job. And maybe the reason why it's not working out is because it's not their job to do.
Right.
And I had to really sit down, and I told my son, I said, look here, you're my child to raise, and I'm not going to give up on you. I don't care what happened before. I don't care what happened with everybody else, but we're going to get through this because everything that you're doing is age appropriate. I know this. I used to run after school. I know what kids, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we're going to work through this. I am going to hold you accountable, though.
Yeah.
There are going to be consequences, but at the same time, I'm not going to give up on you. And that was powerful because prior to that, Jacqueline, I didn't think that I could do it. And one of the biggest fears that I had before um, before was that I didn't think that I could be the mother of a son.
Wow.
And so my when I got pregnant with my son and my daughter, we had not yet married. But then because we were engaged at the time, I was like, okay, I can do it because I'm not going to do this by myself. But my biggest fear was being a single mom with 3 because of the stigma around being a single mom. Mm-hmm. And when my husband passed away, I remember thinking, what am I going to do now?
Right.
And in that moment, I had this peace that I can't even explain. And I knew that it was going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking outside the hospital room, his body is in the room, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? And that peace came. Mm-hmm. But despite even that experience, now, because that was 2007, fast forward is 2020, and it was only then that I got my 2020 vision, if that makes sense.
Wow.
That I was just like, you know what? It's going to be okay. He's not gonna, because I had to, we get all of these fears. Oh, my son's gonna end up being this. My son's not a bad kid. None of my children are bad kids. My son's going through his process, and now it's given me this perspective where it's like, okay, my role is to teach and guide.
Mm-hmm.
That is my role. And so, like I told them not too long ago, I said, if I can't do that for you guys, then my role does not have meaning. That's what I'm here for. That's what God blessed me to do. So that's why I work with you guys the way that I do. So that was huge for me. And it's like, so often we don't think we can swim. We just assume we can't swim. And then God has a real interesting way of pushing us in the water that we're just like, how the heck? And he's like, but you got this, you know? So yeah, deep stuff.
That, whew, girl, I feel you on that. I couldn't be a mother of a son, but I wanted one so bad. I wanted one,
Wow.
and I finally got him. He's the last one. I have three girls, and he's the last one. But raising him without his dad is is a little bit rough. So I get it. I get it. What do you think your life would be like if you did not receive the gift of motherhood?
I think that I would still be trying to figure life out. And actually, truth be told, I might not even be here because, after my mom passed away, um, I was at the point of severe depression and I was ready to like check out, real talk. And the thing that kept me grounded was my ego because I was like, I will be darned if somebody else is going to raise my kids. I was like, oh no. I started looking at the options. I was like, they ain't gonna, they're not gonna do how I'm gonna do it. So guess what? We're gonna have to make this work.
You're gonna have to
And
make.
then I got mad because I couldn't even check out.
Lord have mercy. You are such a mess. Uh, you wasn't supposed to. You supposed to be here. You got work to do.
How about that?
You got work to do. All right, last one. What is the greatest gift you want to give others that are going through what you've been through?
Mm. The first thing for me is that to let them know that you're not alone and that if anything, I tell my story so that other people don't have to repeat my same mistakes. Um, I would say that when in doubt, to stop and be still because that's when God does his best work because you're still enough for you to hear him. Because a lot of times in prayer, we do more talking than listening. And then I think the last one is when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time because denial ain't just a river in Egypt. That's what I would say.
I love it. Denial ain't just a river in
Real talk. It's real talk.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness, Tinnycua, it was just such a blessing to talk to you today. Oh my goodness, I can't wait for the ladies to hear your testimony and to hear everything that God has brought you through. There is somebody out there. If it wasn't
Mm.
me, I've been through the same stuff.
Mm.
It's somebody else. Somebody's been out there to do that. Any last words you want to leave the ladies?
Just be encouraged, man. Just be encouraged. First of all, if they listen to this podcast, that's half the battle right there. Because I listen to your stuff, girlfriend. I listen to it. So I say, keep listening. That's it. That's all I got.
All right, ladies, that is the end of our podcast today. We will see you next week. I love you all. Bye. Thank you for tuning into our program. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave us a comment. I can't wait to see you all next week on Mom Unfiltered.